It was there, ever so slightly and pulsating with constant beats. It had not been there when Tove and Yurei had first awoken, but it was there now. Tove sat against the base of the tree, and he stared off in the direction of the west. Yurei was over by the remains of the fire, covering the still slightly burning embers with water. After they had escaped the vicinity of Gahoda, Tove and Yurei found a small glade of trees in a somewhat isolated mountain valley. It was perhaps a mile or so from the river. What could this mean? How could the piece be moving? Was it stolen, like the last one they had obtained from the Gahodans? Tove slowly stood up, but he kept staring toward the west, towards an unknown spot beyond sight.
Father, are you all right? Do you hear something?
Yurei walked up to him, and she stared in the same direction he did.
It's faint, but the pendant is reacting to another piece of the Sparkle Star lock. The very last piece.
I wonder why you didn't feel it before.
I didn't feel it because the piece is moving towards us. Or rather, it's moved close enough for the bead to barely detect it.
So, what should we do? Go after it? If we get it, then we'll have all 5 pieces.
It's strange, but you're right. The end is nearly in sight. However, I want you to return home with the 4th piece of the lock.
Wait, you're not going after it alone, are you, Father? I can help you. I've been with you for 3 out of the 4 we found.
Squirt, this could be very serious. We don't know what the situation is with the last piece.
Which is why I should be going with you.
No. We both nearly died getting the 4th piece. It needs to be returned to the Elders and secured as soon as possible. Don't forget, I'm a master swordsman, and I'm the most experienced when it comes to battle and military operations. I'm going to be careful, and I'm only going to act if I feel I can do so with advantage.
Yes, Father. I don't like this, but I also understand how important it is we get all 5 pieces back to the Elders, so they can unlock the Twilight Door. Please be careful, Father.
I will. I will be as careful as I can be. Now go. Be safe and secure our people's future.
Tove opened his arms, and Yurei plunged into his grasp. They embraced tightly, and she placed her head against his.
You had better come back with the last piece of the lock, Father. And in 1 piece.
I promise I'll do my best.
Yurei double-checked that she had the 4th piece of the Sparkle Star lock in her pouch, and then she flew off toward the distant northeast. Tove drew in a deep breath and then flew into the air himself. As he climbed higher into the sky, Tove's mind raced. This was it, the very end of this endeavor. He was well aware that there would be more to do once they obtained all 5 pieces of the Sparkle Star lock, and that another giant quest awaited him. He pushed the thoughts of that adventure away for another day. Now, he needed to focus. The first lock had been protected by a dangerous guardian. The second was kept in the human Imperial capital, and would have otherwise been nearly impossible to obtain. The third was watched over by the Nekomata. The 4th was also protected by a guardian, but was stolen by a pirate queen. What sort of dangers swirled around the 5th lock? Tove had led a fairly fortunate life, and yet he couldn't begin to hope that the defenses around the 5th lock would be easy to overcome. No. If anything, they would be difficult. Perhaps the most difficult. If that was the case, then going after the 5th piece was the last thing that Yurei needed to do. Tove bit the insides of his lip. She needed to survive this, to grow older and thrive. It didn't matter if Tove didn't, but she had to. Tove soared to the river, and he followed the pulsating throbs of the pendant. It was closer, and the pendant radiated stronger as he flew along the river itself. A grim thought flickered in his mind. Could the last piece be at the bottom of the river? That would be quite disastrous. He flew for a couple of hours, and the pulses got stronger and stronger. The area surrounding the river had been beautiful as the river cut through the mountains. Tall peaks lorded over the water, and a strong wind blew between them, either going west or east. Something caught Tov's eye. A single ship sailed on the river with a large white sail and 2 smaller black sails. Tov formed 2 balled fists for the pendant that hung around his shirt, vibrated wilder. He flew over the ship and looked down at the crew who manned it. In turn, many of the humans peered up at Tov. For seeing bright amber yellow wings against a blue sky, even one with clouds, was quite noticeable. The crew appeared to be everyday humans, perhaps a bit more gruff and rowdy, as river sailors had reputations for being as such. Tov passed the ship, but he knew all too well that his prize was on that vessel. When he flew over it, the vibrations coming from the pendant became stronger, and now that he was flying away from it, they started to get noticeably weaker. It was a pity, but perhaps the humans didn't know what they carried, or perhaps they could be intimidated into giving him what he wanted. Tov looped back around and sailed up to the vessel. He descended closer to the sailors, and they yelled out, calling Tov some sort of strange Tengu. Stupid humans. Not all winged beings were the same. Tov landed at the very front of the ship, and he summoned his magical sword. The eyes of the sailors were large, and they drew some of their weapons. Many people came up from below the decks.
Listen and take heed, humans. You have something that I want. Give it to me, and I shall leave you all alive and untouched. Defy me, and I will be forced to kill you all.
You must be out of your Tengu-ass mind.
A tall woman emerged from the crowd, with her sword drawn. In addition to her, another very tall human became noticeable. An Onistan also stepped out of the crowd, with an ornate-looking war club on his shoulder.
I don't know who you think you are, but you had better get off my ship before I cut off your wings and drown your ass.
I will not leave without the item I seek. One of you found a triangular metal piece in a tomb or something, and I want it. Give it to me, or I'll start cleaving my way through you to find it.
The tall woman moved closer to him, but then another tall woman from the crowd spoke up.
Captain Luxie? That's no ordinary creature. He's a Vren, a servant of long-forgotten beings. He's after what my friends and I found.
Tov peered at the woman who spoke, another tall human with black hair and bluish-green eyes. A pair of women were beside her, a blonde and brown-haired woman respectively. The blonde woman had a visible tattoo on her thigh, while the other one had one on her arm. It was safe to assume the middle woman also had a tattoo, somewhere. Tov narrowed his eyes.
Mages, you are the worst that humanity has to offer. Your kind stole the power of my masters, and you pervert it to your own devices. I should kill you 3 where you stand.
And you would die trying.
That's enough! I don't care who you are or who you serve. You're not taking anything off this ship. Leave now or else.
If he could kill the tall swordswoman and the Onistan, then surely the courage of the others would buckle, right? Tov hopped down, kept his wings out, and advanced toward the swordswoman menacingly.
So we're doing this then? Great.
To Tov's surprise, the tall swordswoman sprinted forward and slashed with her sword. Tov easily blocked it with his sword and then countered. However, the woman was quite skilled. She parried his attack and then countered with expert grace. Expert grace that seemed incredibly familiar. Whenever Tov evaded an attack and launched one of his own, the woman maneuvered around and put him right back on the offensive. The way she handled her sword, her footwork, and the way she advanced on him without giving him a moment to capitalize. It was strangely predictable, in the sense that Tove had expected her great skills, and yet he couldn't get around them, until he realized something. This style. He had danced against it before. The more he tried to overcome the female warrior, the more he knew it to be true. Tove twirled around in a small circle and used his wings as an extended limb, much in the same way his daughter had used before. His wings collided with the woman's ankles and she tumbled to the ground in a heap, landing on her back. A sense of excitement filled Tove's veins as he raised his sword high. He brought it down with all of his might. A massive Tetsubo arched around and parried Tove's sword away before he landed the killing blow. The force was so strong that Tove stumbled back a couple of paces.
My turn!
The Onistan leapt forward and swung his war club in swift strikes. Tove tried to block it with his wing, but the giant human was just too strong. While it didn't hurt him, Tove collided against the railing of the ship. A moment later, the Tetsubo careened down toward him. Tove rolled out of the way, and the Tetsubo crunched the railing where he once leaned.
Ah! My ship! Hit him! Not my baby, you giant son of a bitch!
Sorry!
The Onistan didn't lose stride, and he closed the distance between him and Tove. When Tove struck out, the Onistan used the entire length of the war club as a means of blocking, and then he rammed the handle of the weapon into Tove's face. Momentarily, pain engulfed his senses. He was blinded for only a second, but he heard the whoosh of air. Tove ducked but felt the rush of wind as the war club nearly clobbered him. Once more, Tove blocked with his wing, only to be knocked over a set of downward stairs and into a wall beside a doorway. Tove opened his eyes and noticed the trio of mages near him. The one in the middle and the brown-haired one appeared frightened, while the blonde one gave him a sort of glare. The one in the middle had known about him, and probably had the last piece with her. With all of his speed, Tove hopped to his feet, and then jumped toward the trio of women. More specifically, the one in the middle. His blade thrusted forward. The blonde mage stepped in front of her friends, and her leg tattoos flashed brightly. Green scales covered her forearms, and she actually deflected his sword with a forearm block. The tips of her fingers became jagged points, and she thrusted a free hand at Tove's face. He slanted out of the way and then hopped back.
You tried to kill my friend! I'm going to get you!
Tove ducked as the Onistan's Tetsubo nearly took his head off. The swordswoman rounded the other side of the stairwell and stepped in front of the now monstrous blonde mage.
You three stay back and let Nori and I handle this guy.
She advanced on Tove as the Onistan, the one presumably named Nori, moved in from the back. He used his wings to block the woman, while he simply got out of the way of Nori's powerful attacks. Tove was a master swordsman, and if paired one-on-one, he would have been able to defeat either of the warriors separately, but together, it was quite dire. His lungs heaved wildly, and Tove rolled halfway down the stairs, leading below deck. As soon as he was clear from them, he pushed up and flapped at an angle. His feet hit the safeguard railing, which prevented people from walking into the wrong part of the stairwell. In an instant, Tove rushed the Onistan with all his speed. His blade opened up a wound on the Onistan's shoulder, and yet the man named Nori only winced. It was not a deep cut, but one that caused blood to run down his arm. Tove landed on the upper deck where the rudder was. A couple of sailors were up there, unarmed, and Tove slashed at them. One of them caught his blade across his chest, and the other man lost an arm.
Leave them alone!
Both the Onistan and the swordswoman had made it to the top of the stairs. Tove flew up into the air, narrowly dodging their joint attacks. He whipped around and slashed a wide hole in the main right sail.
Stop it!
Tove was about to make another pass to create another hole in the sail when he noticed the middle mage woman, the one who knew about him. She had her hands clasped together, and her lips were barely parted. Hot pink mist floated up past her lips. What could she be doing? A small ball of energy appeared out of nowhere, and it took a peculiar shape. Tove slashed another hole in the middle part of the sail. When he looked back to the mage woman, the little energy sphere was gone. What could that have? A powerful whirlwind formed around him, and his body twisted about in small circles. He screamed out as he tried to find the source of the wind. The sky became the ground, and the river stretched over him, but only for a second. Two cruel eyes stared at him from the center of whatever held him in its mighty force. Tove screamed out, and then he jammed his sword between its eyes. Something screamed, and then the wind died down.
Did that monster kill the wind, Kami?
Tove tried to regain his senses, and then he righted himself in the air. Did someone say Kami? As in the elemental spirits? Damn these mages, and all of their stealing ways. He glared down at the humans again. Once more, the mage who knew of him had her hands clasped together, and her lips were parted again. Icy panic swept through his veins. He swooped down and sliced open the black sail at the front of the ship. Tove heard the woman sword fighter scream out again, and it brought him slight delight, if nothing else. He soared away from the ship as pain rocked his body. The adrenaline of combat had waned, and everything hurt. The forces surrounding the last piece of the Sparkle Star lock had been greater than all of the other protections combined. Not only did they have capable warriors, but they had mages who had the powers of the Alicorni as well. This was a minor setback, and next time, Tove would get that last piece. Next time, he would be ready, and the humans, they wouldn't even see him coming.